Welcome to our first dynamic panel roundtable in celebration of Women's International Day. I have an amazing group of dynamic women here with me to share their wisdom, share their diamond gems, and just really empower all of you today and in the future for those of you who watch the replay on just how to show up just effectively, confidently, and with your best creative self. Let me introduce our panel for you. First off, we have Dr. Summer Watson. She's the founder of Core Women LLC. Core Women is the unique home for hearts and souls of women where they can connect, organically learn from one another, reshape lives through diverse interaction, and energize one another to promote change. She's the host and producer of Core Women Podcast, and she's produced documentary films and focused on women empowerment. Welcome to the show, Dr. Summer.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here with you and you. And all of you. Thank you.
Next, we have Miss Melody Standford Martin, I like to say. She's a social ethicist and a communications expert, and she's gonna have to pronounce that word later. She is the author of Brave Talk, a book that I have and I love, Building Resilient Relationships in the Face of Conflict, and the founder of Brave Talk Project. She's the founder and CEO of Cambridge Creative Group, which is the narrative marketing and design company specializing in nonprofit outreach. Melody's work focuses on rhetorical innovation. I want you to explain that one later, and courageous community engagement and out-of-the-box thinking to solve social problems. Welcome to the show, Melody.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. And last and certainly not least is Miss Van Lai-DuMone. She's on the mission to drive workplace culture and performance by integrating creativity into team leadership and development. And as the founder of worksmART, which is a progressive team and leadership development company, she proposes that we are all innately curious. We have good ideas that can come from any level of the organization, and we need to cultivate idea sharing in the workplace through creativity and knowing that everyone will have a chance for their voice to be heard. Welcome to the show, Miss Van.
Thank you, Janine. Hi, Melody. Hi, Summer. Happy Women's Day.
Yes.
Give it up for the women.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I'm just going to have you quickly introduce yourself a little bit more robustly, but and just really what is your passion right now?
Who do you want to go first? Oh, I can't hear you.
We will go with Van. She's at the top.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Okay, so as Janine mentioned, my name is Van. I'm the founder of worksmART. We're a progressive team and leadership development organization. So what I do is I help reduce turnover in high growth teams by engaging creativity, play, and experiential learning in talent and development. So what this does, it like Janine said, it levels the playing field. Since we're all creative, it's a learning tool that everyone can relate to and can apply to any type of learning topic. And by using creativity, what we're doing is giving everyone a chance to have their ideas and their voice heard. And that creates a culture where people feel valued and cared for. And outside of that, I am a mom of a little boy and 3 dogs. So busy over here.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. Dr. Summer?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. So thank you again, Janine, for inviting me. And thank you to Melody and Van for being here with us as well. So my name is Dr. Summer Watson. I am the owner of Core Women, which was established 2 years ago. I am an unlimited empowerment coach. So I help people find their potential, and they have it within them, but a lot of times they don't know where to begin in regards to their journey, their passion, their why. And so I help strategically support them through that journey. I also am a producer of a live show called The Life, Love, and Money Show. I am an author, and I also have a podcast and have done documentary films. So again, thank you.
Awesome. And Miss Melody?
Like Janine said, I am a social ethicist. That was the word, ethicist. Yes, I know it's hard for me to say, and I say it all the time. My field is focusing specifically in conflict transformation and the study and the science and philosophy of what it means to have right relationships. A lot of us are embroiled in conflict right now, especially polarization. And in the larger sense, bringing systems theory, systems understanding of how interconnected we are in the workplace, how interconnected our personal and business lives are. And I work with a lot of executives, in the public and private sectors and nonprofit sectors as well, to bring coaching and awareness and skill building to social transformation and conflict transformation. So it's wonderful to be here. My book is Brave Talk, and it's really written for a general audience, but it's got a wide range of applications. My academic background is actually in philosophy of religion and theology. So I've done a lot of work around meaning making. I have a master's of divinity, meaning making in the world, social ethics, that sort of thing. So it's really just an honor and a privilege to be able to bring that work into organizational studies and to work especially with executives and high performance teams, to deal with all the, you could say, the mushy emotional stuff when work gets hard and things go wrong. But it's great to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. And for those of you who don't know, I am Janine Letford, the founder and CEO of CAFFE InterCreative Strategies, and we are looking to really lead the way in intercultural creativity and make sure people understand that we are supposed to be creative together and work with people from various backgrounds and different lived experiences. So leading off with that, with just, the problem, I believe you guys are dynamic women, and you are really using your life to solve the social problems that we have. What does the intercultural aspect really mean to you, and how are you really seeing that? Just with the diversity and the conversations going on, how are you seeing your work really be in line with solving the current issues that we have today? Dr. Summer, we'll start with you.
Oh, you want to start with me? Okay. So I want to touch on something that you said, Janine. You touched on, and this really does align with the question. You touched on mentioning people's lived experiences and bringing that to the table and understanding what that looks like and understanding what that means. And Melody, for you, and your background, I kind of align with that. My background is in psychology. I'm a doctor of psychology, clinical psychology. I've worked in the field for many years, and I started off my journey in nonprofit. So what I will say, based on that lived experience comment, I am a practitioner from a phenomenological perspective. And so I see Melody nodding her head. Yes, you know what that means. So I actually did my research on bringing people to the research table and telling their stories from their lived perspective, understanding what that means, and really being objective about that and utilizing certain techniques to be able to really fashion that research to really understand their uniqueness and their journey. And so I think by creating a company that really understands people's uniqueness, their phenomenology, creating a podcast, that was my first idea. Like, how am I gonna share these women's stories? How am I gonna share their uniqueness through phenomenology? Because I truly believe in that whole ideology and that way of allowing people to tell their stories or providing a platform for that. So really, it was starting with the podcast. So starting with the podcast, meeting people across the world, allowing them to tell their story on a platform where they felt safe and comfortable in talking about their journey and their uniqueness. And then I went on to creating films where I was bringing women together through documentary films. So I did a film in Los Angeles, one in Nashville, one in New York City, and brought them to the table and brought them to the studio basically to tell their journeys and to share those journeys with each other. And that's how I brought women together. And I do that through coaching, webinars, seminars. And I just had a seminar in December where I brought a ton of women together online, digitally, virtually, to again, allow them to tell their stories, grow together, share together, and raise each other up. And one last thing, before I started this business, I did some research, and I thought to myself, where do I want to go with this company? What is it that I want to do? And I really felt like I need to do my research and see what the need is out there for folks, right? Especially for women. And what I found in asking them certain questions, especially this one, do you feel you have a strong female role model in your career field or job or in school? And when I got the answer back that almost 40% said no, that was like, that was just one high number in my survey that I got back where women weren't supporting women. They didn't feel supported by other women. And I thought to myself, we can do a better job of this. So to answer your question, that is what I'm doing to help with diversity, bringing women to the table, sharing these unique journeys, incorporating phenomenology into that. So there you go.
And Vaughn, could you?
Yeah, I love that idea of helping women tell their stories, because I feel like, I mean, oftentimes women are not telling stories, underrepresented groups are not telling their stories because we don't feel like we have a story worth telling or who's going to listen. And I started telling my story about the history of my family about a year and a half ago, and what I realized in telling it and getting feedback from it is that it's not for me that I'm telling the story; it's for other people, right? Mm-hmm. It's for other people to be inspired by it and to tell their own stories. So my work is not necessarily for women, right? I work in corporate culture, team development, but what I found in bringing creativity into the workplace is that men and women are both drawn to it. I feel like women are particularly drawn to it because of that aspect of creativity, giving people a place to share their voice. And again, we don't often find or feel like we have the right to share our voice. So what I've seen in my work is that women will come to me and say, I'm exhausted, right? Because I am working in this corporate environment, and it's an environment that women really only started entering in mass in the 70s. And we walked into the environment that was built by men, for men, and we spent all these years trying to fit into this masculine stereotype of what leadership looks like. So again, my work did not start with working with just women, but in the past 6 months, I started a group on LinkedIn called Create the Energy to Lead for Women in Leadership with my friend Katie, and her work is around empowering women and using practical energy exercises so that women can tap into their natural strengths and bring that to the workplace rather than trying to just look outside of them and say, like, okay, what are my role models as leaders? Because oftentimes those aren't female models, right? They're masculine models that we will just never be able to step into those shoes.
Good. Melody?
My work centers a lot around power sharing, and that has a lot of implications for different genders in the workplace. It also has a lot of implications for diversity, and I try to work in such a way where I'm encouraging everyone I work with, my clients, to not see diversity as just an add-on, a tack-on thing. It has to be integrated into the lifeblood of the organization, right? Because it's a source of creativity, it's a source of power, it's a source of information and important stories that we need to have healthy organizations. It's not, should never be an afterthought. And so to work that in sort of a more integrative way with an approach to diversity is one of my values, and I try to encourage. It's difficult for my line of work, as a conflict transformation specialist. A lot of times I'm walking into situations where people are embroiled with political differences, and I am in the uncomfortable spot for myself, but that's okay. It's part of the role of having to be a facilitator for different sides of the spectrum. I have strong political leanings. I'm an anti-racist educator, but I also have to work with folks who have very different political opinions. So it's sometimes a very fine line to draw between, not imposing my political opinions, but also encouraging, things like diversity in the workplace. But I found that really there is no neutrality. If that's a value that you have and you do believe that that's part and parcel to a thriving organization, you have to stand up for your values, even if you are responsible to be neutral, So it's something that I've had to wrestle with a lot.
Awesome. And just the work that you all are doing, just making ripples and just looking at the diversity of this group. And there's a term that I heard called, intersectionality of our identities. A few of you guys have mentioned it before we went live about, just your roles, your identities. If you're a mom, you're a pet mom. A few of you are married, and just the roles that you have outside of it, just not just your gender and your ethnicity, but all these other identities that you're bringing with you when you create these curriculums, when you're going into these spaces, and just when you're showing up on the platform. How do you really have these roles stay in sync and show up with confidence? Because there's a lot of women out there where, it takes a lot of energy not to be you. And that energy is taken away from the possibility of you being more creative, of you being more attentive and observant. How do you deal with that reconciliation of the multiple identities that you carry? And anyone can jump in.
Yeah. Well, I can start, Janine. I feel like if the work that we're doing together, I bring me to this idea of like what you're just saying right now. You know, we talk about intercultural creativity is what you bring to the table, but I love what you taught me about, like thinking about myself, like intercultural, like creativity, and how many different cultures are within me, and how do I bring that to the workplace. And to be honest, like I left the corporate world because I couldn't find a way to do that. I didn't know how to. So I left and went off on my own and started this business where I feel like I bring my natural strengths into my work now. But I know that not everyone has that luxury to leave the workplace and go off on their own and find that. So how do we help other women bring their natural strengths into the workplace? And you know, it's interesting because everyone's path is so different, but I've been talking to so many women who's like, there's almost like this critical mass right now where we're like, enough. Like I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted by trying to be someone at work and then coming home and I'm a completely different person at home. So I don't have like a how-to, but I just feel like first of all, recognize what your natural character strengths are, right? What really brings you alive, and just bring that into the workplace, right? I have a friend, she's like, I'm humorous, and I hid that from the workplace for a long time, and now I bring that into the workplace. And yeah, guess what? Some people don't like it, but that's okay. Right? For me, my two natural character strengths are creativity and curiosity. In the corporate world, I never showed that in the workplace. I do that now every day, almost every moment of my life, and I see such value in it for myself and for others. I look back now and feel like, what did I miss out on? What did other people miss out on because I didn't bring that to the workplace? And would I still be there if I felt free to do so?
Yeah. The value loss is huge when it's right. Especially when you look at it collectively.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy.
Glad. Go ahead, Summer.
Oh, please, Melody. No, please.
I was just going to say, Van, I'm so glad that you found that for yourself. It's very encouraging. I have often in my career felt so constricted as, you know, being a more, what I would say, creatively drawn, artistically drawn person. I wore this frilly shirt today because it's one of my favorite shirts, but it's a shirt that I kid you not, probably 5 or 6 different times in the last few years thought, oh, I want to wear this to a client meeting or a pitch, and felt that I couldn't because I didn't want to be too much, right? I didn't want to be too loose or too free or too flirty or too flowery or too feminine, right? It's all the ways we tone ourselves down in order to fit in this box of what we perceive as professional. And I'm encouraged whenever I hear women saying, you know what, enough of that. We're going to rewrite the rules of what professional means, right? We can have purple hair and still be really good at our job. That's ridiculous that we have this unspoken list of rules that are frankly are very punishing and more to some people than others, you know, depending on your social location. So I'm so encouraged, Van, by your story.
Absolutely. I love what you both said, and you both brought something up, both Melody and Van. You talked about kind of the woo-woo, right? And like Melody and like discounting the heart. And then Van, you said something about, you know, how we've come into the boardroom, how we started work in the workplace in the 70s. Well, it's gone back to the early 1900s. However, we've been conditioned. We've been conditioned to dress a certain way, to act a certain way, to talk a certain way. And they weren't by our rules. They were, as you said, created by men. And so the movies that we saw and we looked up to and we wanted to be like these other women, but they were also conditioned, were like Baby Boom and Working Girl. And if you see the pantsuits and the Tiger Lady and the, you know, that's all because they've been conditioned to be a certain person at the boardroom table. And we're changing that significantly. And one way, as a strategist, as a coach, one way, and I've written a book about this, that we really can go back and tap into our authentic selves is understanding our values. Our values are really our launching points. Our values is that foundation for where we launch, what we want to do in life. It gives us our why, our passion. And when we know our values and how to live in congruence with those values, because we've been conditioned by our parents, grandparents, by our culture, by our this, by our that, by our clergy, to live a certain way. We can adopt values, but we need to look back, stand back, and say, what are the values that I truly live by? Because if you're not living by your own set of values, you're living out of alignment. And that out of alignment is not making for your your why, or a happy person, or longevity in what you do, how you live, how you're happy, all of that. So I wrote this book, an interesting titled book, to really have people understand what it means to live in your values, what it looks like, how to do that, how to even identify what your own values are. And so that's my strategy to really, that intersectionality is understanding. And when you come in with that authenticity, you automatically start connecting with people. It's like an invitation of, hey, I want to get to know you, because people know when you're talking, just a pitch versus like you're talking in your authenticity. They know it, they can feel it, they can smell it. It's like, if you come in with your authentic self and know who you are and live by those values, it's a different story altogether. And people start gravitating towards you because of it.
And riding off of that wave, that was some great tips right there. And for Vaughn and Melody, the authenticity of your areas, how can women, and especially young women, really take the time to reflect the authenticity of their creative capacity, the authenticity of their communicative, strength? What does that look like in your fields?
Go ahead, Van.
Oh, and Melody said it looks like Van, but it's pronounced Van like sun.
I apologize, Vaughn.
That's okay.
Thank you. Thanks
a very common mistake, no problem. So and because creativity is universal, it's not really specifically for women that I can speak to, but it does work for women and men, is just understanding that our creative capacity is endless and everyone's creative. We all have creative capacity, and use that almost in a problem-solving methodology and in a problem-solving mindset. So bringing creativity and your creative self to the workplace and looking at your work, like looking at what you're doing in the workplace. Does it feel, like someone said, authentic to you? And if not, get curious and get creative and say, well, what if I did this another way? And then try it. And something that Summer said that I think I want to speak on too is that as you bring this authentic self to work, you will make those connections. I see it every day, even on LinkedIn, just like making one connection with someone on LinkedIn in a very authentic way. I've made so many friends this year in 2020 through LinkedIn. Janine's one of them. Yeah.
We've never met two more.
Yeah, two more here. We've never met in person but we're authentic in the way we communicate. But also knowing that as you step into your authenticity, as you step into your creativity and bring new things into the workplace, into your life, there are going to be those haters, right? There are going to be those people that want you to fit in, and they're not going to be so happy for you. And I think, in creativity, we call it creative chaos. Like whenever you try to make a change, there's this inevitable time called creative chaos where it looks like it's messy, doesn't look like it's working out. You're going to want to make that U-turn and go right back to where you used to be and what it used to look like. But knowing that creative chaos is part of change will help you know that, okay, if I can work through this creative chaos because of the natural process of creativity and change, innovation and change is on the other side of this.
Yeah. I love that. I know, I do. I love that because when there is that chaos, what you call that creative chaos, there is that change. It takes courage to make that movement, to take those tiny steps towards change. And that courage is, what I would say about that is surround yourself by people who want to support you. Because as I said, I surveyed women before I started this company, and to find out that we don't have those mentors, or feel like we don't have those mentors, or feel like, we're struggling by ourselves, or that we're so different. And I found like we meet many times we're our worst enemies, right? And so we can really separate each other because of our differences, because of our uniqueness, because of, she's not fitting into the mold. And it's like, well, you don't have to. What you can do is surround yourself with people who are making those changes. It might not be the same changes, but they're making changes in their lives to see a transformation, to see something different that is purposeful and intentional and meaningful to them. And with that said, when you start surrounding yourself with those people, like we did in 2020, right? In 2019, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, we felt like, here we are making connection. here we are. We have this round table of folks that they're all doing things differently, but uniquely and intentionally. And I like that. And you know what? We're here to support each other. So remember, you're never alone. There are people out there who want to be of support.
I couldn't agree more. And I wish in my younger career, I would have known that. I would have known it's okay to go pester women who are farther along in their career. Hey, excuse me. Hey, tell me what you know. Hey, help me out here. Give me advice. You know, I just didn't know that I could do that. And I wonder what I think a theme that's been arising in this conversation, what have we missed out on? What opportunities have we not taken? Yeah. I'm so glad you used the word courage, Summer, because for me, that's been a huge theme. And I think in my younger days, a lot of my decisions and my, presentation and my existence in the professional world was driven by fear of not being taken seriously and going to great lengths to be taken seriously. But ultimately, I didn't take myself seriously. And I think to that question of authenticity, I think people can feel that. People can sense that. And once we start finding the power of taking ourselves seriously, that's a game changer, right? When we don't have anything to prove to anyone except for ourselves. At the end of the day, we want to be happy and proud of who we are. We want to be locked into our creativity. So really, for me, it's come to the courage to show my strength and let my strengths be seen. The courage to see other women's strength. The courage to allow ourselves to be weak and vulnerable without feeling like we're going to topple from our position. We're going to lose, right? That vulnerability is part of the strength, and that is part of our story. So for me, courage has been a huge theme, just trying to find that. It's been a long journey, and I don't know that I'm there yet, but here we are.
And social contagion is real. That's surrounding yourself around other people, and fear is contagious. Courage is contagious as well. And creativity, right? That innovative spirit, that is contagious. And that's another reason why your sphere of influence is critical, and mentorship is critical as well. If there are some young women who are watching this, they're just in high school or in the college age years, and they're just really wanting what you just said, to reach out to people who are 5-10 steps ahead. Besides just reaching out on LinkedIn, a lot of them don't even know what to say. What do you wish you would have told your 18-year-old self, and what advice could you give that 18-year-old or that 22-year-old today? Jump in, someone.
Oh, I'm just thinking back to that 20-year-old self. She could use a lot of advice.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I would say, when I think of literally me at 21 years old, and having been a refugee, an Asian American, living in a country where my parents expected one thing from me that was completely different when what my other environment was asking me. I really never developed confidence in my younger years. So at 21, I feel like I was still the creative self I am now, but I questioned myself all the time. Like, is this the right thing to do? So I would just say, if I could go back and tell myself or other people that age right now who are feeling the same way, believe in yourself, right? Believe in your ideas and take one small step towards them.
I love that. And I'm going to jump in here too, because I think that's what's so important. And Janine, you had mentioned this about mentorship. Mentorship is so important. And one of the things I feel very, very strongly about, and Melody, you mentioned this too, that I go into universities, I go into different places to look for interns, because I really want to be able to embrace these interns and not only give them the super skills to hey, you can go out there and do A, B, and C, and you can minimize this thought of, I'm not good enough, I'm not valued, and to help them understand their value, because we each and every one of us has value, and it's important to embrace that. And I think that if we haven't been taught that, we don't know how to do that. So we're models. We're modeling every day by what we say, by what we do, how to value yourself and what that means. I'm not saying a price necessarily. I'm saying value who you are. Value your uniqueness, your laughter, your creativity, your dreams, your journey, that person's journey, because we are also unique. We weren't meant to be the same. We have similar lived experiences because we're human. So we as human beings, as a psychologist, I've worked with people day in, day out, about, what their troubles are, what their challenges are. And if you come to my table and say, I don't have any, I will laugh. Because we all have them. We all have them. So what I would tell your 21-year-old self, my 21-year-old self, is even back then, when I was 21, I didn't have it all together. We still don't have it all together. Jump in. Have fun doing it. Jump in. Take the chance. Be courageous, because a lot of times we didn't jump in because of the conditioning. We didn't jump in because of the roadmap we created in our head that said, if we're not doing it this way, and this way yet, we can't jump in. We don't have a seat at that table. But you do. You have a seat at that table. You can have a seat at that table doing it your way and understanding that you are valued. You have value. So what I would say is understand your values, walk in alignment with those values. If you feel like you're not walking in alignment with those values, go back to your checklist of values and check in with yourself. Because when you do, it's like, okay, I remember who I am. Yeah. I can remember. So.
And on that note, Summer, I think going back to the work you do too is representation, right? Like the women who are there already, the women who can mentor these young women, share your stories, get out there and be recognizable, be somewhere where these young women can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Be available.
Yeah.
And before you jump in, Melody, with your response, I did a talk yesterday where I shared the vulnerable aspects of my past and my speech therapy and not even being able to say my own name in my childhood and the havoc that wreaked upon my identity and the journey that got me to where I am today. Doing a TED Talk and on the global stage, and I think just the young people really appreciate that. Because when they see us now, like they see us in the big names and the, being sent around the world, and they don't see the struggles that you and we all went through. And that's why it's so important for us to show those parts, because you see me at chapter 10, you didn't see chapter 1 and 2 and 3, right? And so, that's so important. And the last point I want to make before Melody jumps in, is I also, me coming from the K-12 system, I had to apologize to my students who graduated from my elementary school. I was like, I'm sorry, I did not know that we should have also been focusing on you guys really honing in on what am I good at? Yeah, and what are my values? I think that is something that has to be integrated within the curriculum, because not all parents have access to that information to do it at home. But if we can standardize it and make sure kids really have that reflective piece of saying, I'm really good at this. How can I show up confidently in this way through this work? So when I do shoot out into the workforce, I've already got that there. Melody?
I'm so glad that many of us are touching on modeling, representation, mentorship. I think that is absolutely crucial. And I wish I could say to young people today who might want to reach out but are afraid and don't know what to say, don't know how to approach women who are farther down the line. What I want to say is you are not a burden. You are not a burden. You're not bothering us, right? I mean, perhaps some potential mentors would give off that vibe, unfortunately, but there are a lot of women out there who want to pay forward. Mm-hmm. And we who have been helped by many people, right? We're just passing it along, passing on that information and that knowledge. I also would like to say, you don't have to know what you want to do yet. I think a lot of people are intimidated to just approach any woman because they're like, well, if they're not in the potential field and if I'm not looking for a job, then I don't want to take their time. I don't want to bother them. I wish I would have explored more and talked to more women in different fields to see, hey, what do you do? Why do you do it? What are you passionate about? How are you making a difference in the world? Mm-hmm. I talk to a lot of young women who not only don't know what they want, they seem in younger generations. I'm interested in generational work. Gen Z women, I've found, really tend to know what they're good at. I don't sense that confidence is an issue, but there is a lot of hopelessness about economic projections and whether there will be an economy that actually persists and serves upcoming generations for many reasons, and that's a whole conversation we could get into. But I just want to say that from my position, things, and I know that I'm speaking from a certain place in life, right, or a certain, having the economy work for my generation in a different way, but it's not as bleak as it might seem. And there are so many opportunities in so many industries to make a difference in a way that feels authentic and feels like it does hit your values. Like you can do both. You don't have to make this horrible choice between, between being true to yourself and having a career. I don't know if that makes sense to you all, but I see some head nodding. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
In line with that advice, I really feel like, when I was interviewing for jobs, getting out of college and after grad school, I always felt like the company was interviewing me, and I hope they make me an offer and I can accept that job. Where I feel like now it's not so much that anymore, right? The interview is back and forth. Right? Is this the right cultural fit for me? And then the other thing is, maybe it's because we're all experienced now, but even if someone posts a job position and you feel like you want that position, you want something like that position, call someone from the company, ask for an informational interview. And if the answer is no, I always feel like the answer is never really no. It's no, but maybe if I offer something else. Everything's a negotiation. And I think there's so much room to create your own positions, either by being an entrepreneur or even within companies now, to go in there's like, this is what I would like to create for you, and see what they say.
Oh, I love that.
That's awesome.
In alignment with all that has been said here, I want to take this back to just really quickly to the personal perspective and, really speaking to those young folks out there. Know that we had to work to get here. It takes a lot of work. And during that process, we each had our own experiences. I've come from a multiracial background. I come from a mom who was an addict. So when I went to undergrad at Berkeley, my mom started using heroin and, all these different hard drugs. And I lost my best friend at that point. Like, how did we each come with something? So we may look like we have it all together right now, but let me tell you something. We each have something. Maybe a father wasn't in the home. Maybe it wasn't. And it's okay to have those things. It's okay to know that we're human. Know that you're going to be going through these processes. However it is that you're going through them, but know that you're not alone. That other people are having their own conflicts, but are taking the courageous step to get some help. You're never alone. There's help out there. There's a mentor out there for you. If you want to do something, as Vaughn said, you can create a job. Now it's like we go into jobs and say, I'm interviewing them. I'm interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing me. I'm having the courage to sit here. And if I'm taking my time, effort, and energy to sit here, I'm going to hear what they have to say, but they're also going to learn about me and what my needs are. If we match because of our value systems, we match. If we don't, okay. But as Vaughn said, there's also an opportunity to say, hey, I've got something else I can create for you here. So know that you're not alone, and go out. Have the courage to reach out to me, Vaughn, Melody, Janine. Have that courage, because we're here to help. We're here to support. There are women out here to support you. So.
And one reach out can change the trajectory of your life. I've definitely had that happen. Vaughn's comment reminded me of a quote that Jim Rohn said. He said, when you go to a job, normally you're focused on how much can I make here? And rarely do you ask, okay, who can I become here? Mm-hmm. And I think another aspect, I was like, when we hire people, we give them the job description, but rarely do we say, here's a job description. Now, how can you make it better? What can you create with it? Or what do you think that we could improve? And I think that's a key, especially now as we go into this creative shift, as Vaughn said in our podcast, like we're at this critical mass where everyone is realizing the uniqueness of you. There's a Harvard Business Review article that I love, and she talks about the onlyness of you. Like that is your superpower, your intersection of all your identities and experiences. No one has had that route yet. So really that's what you're bringing to the table. But I love that. I want to go into some strategy, because you guys are each like Melody mentioned, like she's pitching, she had to write a book. You have to present yourself a certain way. And once again, this is another thing that I think we should do a better job equipping our students with at the younger formation age. So they are negotiators coming out of high school. They understand the personal psychological aspect of going back and forth. What are some like implementable strategy tips that you can give to our audience about you showing up confidently and knowing how to negotiate? Anyone jump in?
Well, I think knowing, and I'm going to go back to this, and I speak about this all the time, it really comes from within. It really comes with doing your self-work. Number one, knowing your values. And how you do that, identify what those are, list those out, put those on a sheet of paper, actually write them out. And I actually have some strategy, and for some reason, I can't find my book. So I know there's one in the closet, but I don't want to leave my chair right now. So. But know that you absolutely can. There is a strategy for understanding your values, where you're at. Know that those can shift a little bit. But when you know that and you go into, let's say, a job, you want to read their mission statement. You want to read their core value set, and you want to see what those are. You're going to see if those align with your values, your own personal values. And when you go in to talk with a company, you're going to say, hey, what is your mission statement? How does this apply? How do you apply this? What are your expectations of me as an employee, as somebody who can contribute to this company and lift this company up, And then also, like, how is it that my values are going to mesh with your values? How do you see us working together effectively? Yeah. So those would be some things that I would have to say, because values and really aligning with your own values and how that applies to work, personal, in regards to who you match with as a partner, who your friends are, has real meaning, and lasting meaning. So
yes, absolutely.
And longevity. So.
And going along with knowing your values, I would say go into these negotiations knowing your value, right? Mm-hmm. What value do you bring to the table? And oftentimes, I don't think we recognize what our true value is, because as women, especially as women who are, in the workforce, I feel like we are always setting a goal for ourselves, getting there, and then moving on to the next one. And there's no sitting back and be like, wow, that was awesome. I'm amazing. I set this goal for myself, and here I am. There's none of that, right? We're just like, pop, we just keep going. So
celebrate, right?
We have to take those times to celebrate. And especially if you're going into a negotiation, literally for me, it helps to write it all down, and not just write what I know down, asking people around me, like, what value do you see me? What value do I bring to this situation? What value do I bring to this organization? So that you have that external support too. It's like, I'm just not thinking about this myself. And I guarantee you, people around you have more to say about your value than you do, because we don't tend to see our value and our strengths. And oftentimes, because our genius zone, our strength, it comes so easily to us that we don't see value in it, but it's so valuable to other people, right? So know what those values are, know what your value is to a company, and also go in there with like a goal, right? Just don't go in there like, whatever happens, happens. Go in there like, this is what I want. This is what I'm willing to maybe negotiate on and collaborate on and get to. But this is, just know those two areas and know what you'll definitely say no to. I think that really helps going into negotiations.
Absolutely.
In addition to everything Vun and Summer said, I would also add, let me add a third type of value, the value added, the value proposition. I'm not just going to come into your organization and check off all these boxes, because you have 10 other people down the line who will also check off the boxes. I'm going to do this, but I'm also going to understand the bigger picture of your organization, and I'm going to add to this. I'm going to expand on this for you. I'm going to add value to your organization. You really can't afford not to hire me. Because I'm creative, because I'm professional, because I work as a team, because I'm innovative, but I'm also a self-starter, right? You can show, and if those things aren't true for you, obviously don't say them, but to know who you are, to know yourself, and to know what's held you back in the past, to know what you've liberated yourself from, to know how to flex and adapt, but ultimately to be able to add something to the operations and not just be a bum in a chair, right? I mean to say not a bump, like a butt. Oh gosh. You know what I mean?
I get it.
Filtering, professional environment filtering. And then I think also being a champion of others around you, I think is a huge one, right? To be someone who others feel supported by, right? And to ask for that same support in return, to not just give until you're exhausted and depleted, but to also have a reciprocal relationship to those around you, I think will also bring value to the table.
Yes.
I want to stay with you for a second with conflict. You know, conflict is a big issue, especially now. There's so many issues going on, and people may be in toxic work environments or just maybe not non-inclusive work environments. But one thing that I love from your book is you don't really focus on conflict resolution. You focus on conflict transformation. Like, we should be better after the whole situation has been completed. Could you talk a little bit about conflict transformation and what that looks like?
Sure. Yeah. It's so the basic premise is to not just slap a Band-Aid on something and say, okay, now we fixed it, right? It's a very fix it sort of mechanical approach to these very human and deeply emotional issues we all often find ourselves entangled in. Conflict transformation says, okay, we're going to take a step back from resolving it. We're going to stop and we're going to try to see each other, to really see each other, to really listen deeply, and to try to unpack and understand the surrounding conditions, the systemic causes that have created the conflict in the first place, so that we can address that, so that we prevent it from happening again. And that's where you get into a lot of crossover between conflict transformation and something like social justice work, because you're actually looking at bigger systems of what's often oppression, right? And we see this as women in the workplace all the time, like imbalances of power, situations where some people get to have a bigger voice or a bigger say than others in an unfair, unjust manner. And so it's very integrative, this work, but to think about conflict in a transformative sort of way. So that's it's just a different philosophy, right? It's a different philosophy of approaching these problems, but it's more of a long-term, sustainable approach. Is that helpful?
Yes. Does anyone else have any thoughts about how you use conflict to transform and to improve your relationships?
Well, I do. If I can step in here, I wanted to ask Melody a question too. Because I do see this coming from kind of like this top-down situation where many times you need to go into corporations, companies, and kind of retrain. But how do you retrain a company that has been doing the same way, with the same mindset, with the same mission for years and years and years? I have my ideas, but I want to hear from you and Vaughn about how you would go into a company and support somebody where they say, because I've been there too, where I go into a company as a director, going for a directorship position, and they want change, but they're really not doing anything to create the change. They're stuck in the same process, the same routine, the same culture that they've been doing and being in for years. So do they really want it? And if they hired you because they want it, how do you actually get to the point where they're making the change? They're embracing change, because that's a tough one. I mean, I've been at these companies where we want change. Yeah, we need to do this because this is like the buzzword or the buzz issue. It's not a buzzword. It's not a buzz issue. Equity, diversity, inclusion are something we should have been doing from the very beginning. This is not a buzzword. This is something that should have been happening long ago. And yet here we are still dealing with corporations that are having trouble. They're having difficulty.
Absolutely. Vaughn, did you want to jump in before I attempt to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, so I really feel like it's such a big topic, right? And there are some companies I walked into and I have to walk out of because it's not going to happen, right? They're saying the right words, but no matter what we do, it doesn't seem to be like they actually don't really want to apply it and actually put actions to their words and actually make true change. But I would say that for me, and this is not an easy thing for me to be, is like the whole idea of being patient and understanding that it took us a long time to get where we're at, and we've been here for a long time. These companies have been the way they are for a long time, It's not a workshop, right? It's not a it's not a workshop. So even when someone purchases a workshop from me around even this idea of creativity, giving people to be more creative, it really is everything that I bring in is around this idea of mindset, skill set, and behavior. So how do we change mindset first? And we'll come in there and do exercises to open people's minds to the way things have been, what the opportunity cost of that has been, and then work forward from there. And I think, I mean, I don't have the right, hopefully Melody has all the right answers, but for me, what I can do is go in there and at least open people's eyes to what it's been like and what that has cost your company.
Can I jump in here because
Sure,
something you mentioned, Vaughn? I'm sorry, Melody, I don't need to step on your toes.
Please do.
I liked what you said here, and I think we would reach these folks too if we get down to benefits to costs. And I talk about this a lot because when they're looking at the almighty dollar or even like retention, you know, of employees, what are the benefits to costs in relation to maintaining that workforce, in getting the work that you want, the positive work that you want, really getting the buy-in from those employees and making them part of the actual company, you know, not just an employee, but part of the company. So I think, you know, this would be my one suggestion would be look at the benefits to cost for your company. Because if you embrace this, let me tell you the costs and the benefits to you, the benefits are going to be outweigh anything else. And it's going to be fantastic. And I think once they've grasped that, when you're coming from like, yeah, I'd love to say, you know, when you're coming from this humanistic perspective, but really what I'm going to say is when you're coming from a corporate perspective and you're looking at the dollar, your benefit is going to outweigh anything when you embrace this. So, you know, I think our approach sometimes, because we have disengaged from the woo-woo so much that if we bring in too much of the woo-woo at first, it's going to be like, ooh, I don't know if that kind of is weird. That feels strange. You know, they're not going to embrace it. Like you said, Vaughn, it didn't happen. Change doesn't happen overnight. We got here over years and years and years. So we have to work on slowly integrating these changes.
Mm-hmm. This is why I'm excited by the trend of, for example, bringing cultural experts or cultural officers or diversity officers, the whole suite of people who are responsible for the culture itself at an organization. Because you're absolutely right. These things take years to develop, and oftentimes these cultures are set accidentally, right? Or they're set based on charismatic personalities or toxic personalities. And unfortunately, a lot of times when people bring someone like me in to a project or to an organization, they're already hemorrhaging. It's triage. They understand that there's a cost already, and they're just trying to. I think a lot of people understand they need deeper work, but they don't know what that means because this is such a new conflict transformation, specifically such a new area of thought, and there aren't a lot of practitioners yet even out there doing it. So, by all means, everyone who wants to jump on board this bandwagon, please do, because it's a really exciting. I think it's a very exciting field. But anyway, yeah. By the time people bring me in, they're often, saying, I feel like I've had executives say, I feel like I'm groping in the dark, and I don't even have a flashlight. I don't even know how to deal with everyone's just broken around me, and I'm questioning my own leadership. I don't know what to do. Like, we just have so much conflict, and I'm drowning, right? And so I wish that first organizations would spend time doing this skill building and mindset changes before they get there, right? Mm-hmm. To both of your points. And secondly, it is these are cultural patterns. These are posturing. These are mindset issues. For example, if your company, if someone disagrees or asks a sharp question and everyone panics, then you don't have a culture of healthy disagreement. You have a culture of forced consensus, and you're probably missing out on some really great ideas that can prevent you from making mistakes in the future, right? So that collective intelligence that comes from disagreement, from sharpening each other, if that's not an organizational cultural practice already, then you're missing out, right? You're missing out on benefit. So that's the first thing I say. The second thing I would say is that I think there is a lot of anxiety in the chaos Vaughn, that you mentioned, the creative chaos that you mentioned.
Mhm.
There's so much anxiety when we get to that point because, like I said, everything feels like it's falling apart around us. But I think everything we can do to lower that anxiety and animosity and engage imagination. What is possible here? I know things feel like they're falling apart, but they're also upended in such a way that we can make some big changes. So what's possible? And really setting a path, giving someone a flashlight, what's possible here in this brand new territory, then it seems like people can start to work on that larger transformative change, in my experience.
Yes. That is so good. So we're going to be wrapping up right now, and I'm so excited because we've been kind of taught to compete. The SATs, competition, and I'm an athlete, so I'm all about competition and push yourself and make sure that person stays down so you can go up. And that's not going to work anymore going forward. And this is just a testament on what this could look like. I'm building this out, and I want to, get these huge contracts and say, I have the perfect conflict transformation person on board. I have the perfect creative Lego specialist on board. So how can I really collaborate and just build out these wonderful programs and bring in these great minds to really make the change? Because like Melody said, who wants to join me? There's space, there's room for us all. Like the pie factory, it's not a pie where there's limited amount. We can build pie factories, right? And so thank you guys so much for just taking your time. You guys are running businesses and changing the world. So the fact that you took an hour to just really pour into people today and people for years from now who are going to watch this, thank you so much. I am the Diamond Girl. This is our logo over there. We're all about the diamond and the diversity diamond. That's another thing that I'm coining, that we all have different facets that just make us shine bright. Like Dr. Summer kept saying, the uniqueness of you, that is your superpower. And you guys are beautiful super women. What is your diamond? What is your gem that you want to leave with our audience today? And we will start with Vaughn.
Okay, it goes to what you just said, Janine. When I first started my business 5 years ago, I had this scarcity mindset, right? Like an organization would call me like, oh, can you do a workshop on taxes? Of course I can. Let me just Google that. But now I feel like I still say yes to a lot of projects, even though if I haven't done them before, but not because I'm going to do them myself, because I know that in my network, I can refer them to the right person. Right? So if I can't do it for you, and I think that's the value of what a lot of my clients find in me, is because now I have adopted this abundance mindset, right? Come to me with whatever your needs are. If I can't do it, trust me, I know someone who can, right? And I'm more than happy now to introduce you to those people. Mm-hmm. So adopting, getting rid of your scarcity mindset and adopting an abundance mindset. There's enough for everyone.
Beautiful. And Miss Melody?
I'd like to share with you my business mantra that my mentor gave me. Mantra, if I can use the word term loosely. I don't mean to offend anyone religiously, but the phrase that I tell myself all the time that I hope maybe will help others, and I think it's been a theme throughout this conversation. I give myself permission to show up fully. And I'll tack on to that, I give myself permission to celebrate other women who I see showing up fully, and I celebrate all of you today. Happy Women's Day.
Yeah. Love that.
And Dr. Summer.
Well, there was a few that I came in here with, and I just want to thank everybody. And I think that, that mindset is really critical. But I think what also is critical during unique times and every day is how we respond versus react. Mm. And I think that our response, and this goes back to something Melody said, when you're going into a company, a lot of times you're already doing triage, right? You're looking at the crisis. But even if you're in a crisis, know that how you respond versus react is really critical and really can change, because that response takes time to think about. So you actually have to take some time just to stand with yourself and understand what that response is. So respond versus react. Remember that. Number 2 is your superpower is amazing. And you know what it is? Choice. We have choices. We have choice that we can make every single day. But here's the thing. We give away our superpower all the time. We give away our power of choice every single day. You don't have to do that. That is a major superpower. And that goes along with how we respond versus react. And then also going back to your values. Values, 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 values. I'm always going to touch on this because when you're walking in alignment with those values, when you're going to talk to that company, I think down the road, you're not going to be questioning where you're at so much or why you're with that company, because you were always faithful to those values. And it will be like, oh, I work at the right company because we did align. We aligned from the get-go. And I was able to check in with myself. So those are the 3 biggies for folks out there. Those are my words of wisdom for today.
Well, you all have and got your bling bling. Those are your gems from these gems themselves. You guys each are diamonds. So thank you so much for giving your time, giving your wisdom on this beautiful International Women's Day. People can look at your name and come and link up with you on LinkedIn or any other platform that you're in. And I will be sure to post this on YouTube as well and have your connecting information there. And let's say goodbye and happy International Women's Day.
Thanks, Janine.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Thank you. Bye, Van.
Bye. Bye, Summer. Bye, Melody.
Bye.